I'm Congressman Ed Case, and this is another version of Congressman Ed Case Reports on Olelo Community Television. Today I am in my Washington, D.C. office, and one of the things that I do here in Washington, D.C. is we take care of people that come from Hawaii with whatever we can help them with, but the main thing that I try to help them with is understanding their U.S. Capitol. And so we offer tours out of my office. Usually my staff takes the tours, but we're going to try something today. I'm going to give a tour to a person that I've actually known all of her life, who happens to be going to school here in Washington, D.C. right now, but she's never been to the U.S. Capitol. And so I'm going to dust off my tour skills and give her and you a tour of the U.S. Capitol. So let's find a little bit about you first. Who are you?
I'm Michelle Biete, and I was born and raised on the island of Oahu.
All right, and Michelle, what are you doing here in Washington, D.C.?
I'm going to Georgetown University, and I'm getting my master's in systems medicine. So
systems medicine, that's pretty intense.
Yes, it's a lot of science and bioinformatics, so trying to change the healthcare system in Hawaii, I guess.
So you're up here. You went to school in Hawaii, right, undergrad?
Yes, I did my undergrad at the University of Hawaii in Hilo.
And how long is this master's program?
It's a one-year specialty program.
Now, how did you get through your entire life without ever going into the United States Capitol?
Very strategically.
You've been to Washington before this, right?
Yes, I went once with the Future Farmers of America program in high school, so that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We went to the Smithsonian's, but not the Capitol.
You didn't come to the Capitol?
I don't think we went inside. We didn't get the inside scoop, so I hope to get it out of him today.
You're in for a treat today, and I might say that the reason I feel comfortable taking this tour of the Capitol is because I got my start in politics working for U.S. Congressman, then later Senator Spark Matsunaga. So I started working on Capitol Hill when I was 22 years old. One day after I graduated from college, came down here as a summer intern. And Spark Matsunaga had the same approach that I adopted from him, which is basically that when anybody from Hawaii comes to DC, you take the time to meet with them and you take the time to help them out. Because for many of them, like you, it might be the first time that they've ever been here. And for many, it might be the only time.
Yeah. And
so what I owe them is an opportunity to understand their government, to understand their capital, to understand the history. And so as a staff member, every single member of Spark Matsunaga's staff had to know how to give the tour. And so the tour I'm going to give you is a tour that I've probably done 100+ times. I don't know, maybe more than that, because I worked for Spark for almost 3 years, and I think I probably gave a tour once, maybe twice a week. He was quite famous for this. Everybody came to his office to get the tour. So Michelle, we're about to go and check out the Capitol, okay?
Okay.
All right, let's go. We're in the Rayburn House Office Building. And so all of the members of Congress have an office outside the Capitol itself. So we don't actually have our office in the Capitol. We're all in the House Office buildings. This is since 1908. First was the Cannon House Office Building, then the Longworth House Office Building, and now the Rayburn House Office Building, which is about early 1960s. So these are all offices. I walk back and forth between here and the Capitol all day. So we're going to do the walk that I do every day on the way to the Capitol. Outside, because it's a nice enough day to go outside, and then we'll come back under the subways.
Okay. How much time do you usually spend in the Capitol?
I usually go to the Capitol to vote, because that's where the chamber of the U.S. House of Representatives is, and that's where I do my actual voting.
Okay.
But most of my work is actually here in the House Office building. So I do my work in my office, where my staff is, and where I meet with my constituents and everybody else, and also my committees. So a lot of my work is in the committees. And there are committee rooms here I'm on one committee, which is the oldest committee in Congress, called the Appropriations Committee, which is the Money Committee. And that committee actually works in the Capitol. So I have committee hearing rooms in the Capitol for those. But most of us do a lot of our work right in the office buildings, and we go to the House to vote. And that's where I kind of get together with my colleagues every day. And like today, for example, I went over to vote. But I also talked with my colleagues because we all kind of gather there. Oh, what a beautiful day.
Yeah, it's really nice. And the cherry blossoms are...
Warm enough?
Yeah,
All right, we won't be outside for too long.
Yeah, the cherry blossoms are...
Yeah, we got the beautiful cherry blossoms. Today is supposed to be peak cherry blossoms.
It's gorgeous.
Like this particular day
Interesting.
is the peak cherry blossoms. So this is the Rayburn building right here.
Gorgeous.
This is the Longworth building. And this is the outside of my office. Look at this. Beautiful.
Yeah, everyone has got a new paint job, I guess.
There's my office right there. Up that light.
Yeah, you have a nice view. You know, second story.
Second story. Well, here's the deal. The House office buildings and the office you selected is purely by seniority.
Oh, so you get higher up. The
So,
longer.
well, I get a larger office for starters, and I get the optimum. What do you call it? Office, depending on your seniority, and there's kind of a pecking order. So the first couple of years I was here, I was in Cannon, which is a very nice building, but smaller offices. And then I never was in Longworth here. But I came back, I came to Rayburn because I had enough seniority. And I had another office earlier in Rayburn, but then I changed offices because it was closer to the Capitol. And then if you really want the offices that the most senior members have, there are these offices right here.
Oh yeah, because they overlook the Capitol.
Because they're Rayburn, they're nice and big, and they have a Capitol view. So that's the pecking order.
That's the pecking order. Who's on your advisory committees and boards that you meet with before you go and decide how you're going to vote on certain things?
How do I know?
Who do you talk to?
Well, I talk to, my staff is responsible for knowing what's coming up for a vote and for evaluating what the vote is all about, for considering how I should vote.
Yeah.
Also, I talk to my colleagues, and I eventually...
And by colleagues, you mean other representatives?
The other representatives, people that I trust, people that I tend to vote like. I also, of course, think about, okay, what's the impact on Hawaii? I'm always thinking about that.
Yeah.
And most votes are fairly straightforward. Most votes are not really complicated, but every once in a while you get a vote that you're really not sure what to do. And those take a little bit more time, so I may go to my staff and say, well, what about this? What about that? And there and kind of analyze it. Eventually I have to make a decision. And the way I vote is, and we're not going to be able to go in the chamber of the House because it's closed right now.
Okay. There's no like underground tunnel way to get in?
No. Not that I know of.
That you know, okay.
But anyway, it's electronic voting, so this is my ID card. It's also my voting card. And with that, it's a lot colder than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, it was
all right.
a lot warmer yesterday.
We'll be inside pretty soon. So you turn around here and you can see the 3 office buildings for the House. Cannon, Longworth, and Rayburn.
Okay.
So this was my office when I first was here. I never was in Longworth and then Rayburn. And when I worked for Spark Matsunaga, he had a lot of seniority And he had an office right there in Cannon, 442 Cannon, which is very important because of the 442nd. So the room number was appropriate, and he, and so that was my introduction to Washington. I was working over there, looking out my window at the Capitol.
Inspirational. And what building is that?
So we're going to come over here and get ourselves oriented. We're now on the east side of the Capitol. And there is our U.S. Capitol. And from here, you can kind of see what's happening. This is Capitol Hill. So it was built on the only hill in Washington, D.C. And the U.S. Capitol was built on the top of Capitol Hill. Originally, all parts of our government were right here in the U.S. Capitol. Supreme Court, in the early days, everybody was in the Capitol, but then we kind of fanned out. So from here, you can see the House side, because the Capitol is the U.S. Congress, which is the U.S. House and the U.S. Senate. So the U.S. House has this half of the Capitol, and that's the domain of the U.S. Senate over there. The middle of the Capitol, the dome of the Capitol, is kind of neutral territory, right? That's the U.S. Congress. And over there is the U.S. Senate. And over here is the U.S. House. You walk through those. In fact, I just walked up those steps today to go vote. I walked through the doors and I'm pretty much in the chamber right away. So it's the Senate office buildings over there, similar to our office buildings. And that over there is the United States Supreme Court. Very beautiful building. And this is the Library of Congress right here, which is, as it sounds like, Congress's library. It happens to be the oldest library in our country and the largest library in the world. And it's very beautiful, and that's one of the Library of Congress's extra buildings. So right here we have all parts of our government except for the White House and the executive branch of government, which is not here. But we have the legislative branch and the judicial branch. So and we'll talk about this inside. It's laid out to be exactly along the lines of the compass. So that is east, north, south, and west. The mall's on the other side, looking down to the west, and we'll go check that out. Okay. Sorry. I think all the tourists went inside because it got unseasonably cold. Hello.
Weird question. Do you know what the building is made out of?
Marble. Marble and some wood underneath. It's a beautiful 225-year-old building. Good. Oh, that's nice and warm.
Yes, it is.
So we're in the United States Capitol, and remember what I told you about geography? Capitol is laid out north to south, and so you're looking straight north there, and that's south, and that's east, and that's west. And so the Capitol is laid out in a rectangle. The first part of the Capitol was the original Capitol, which we'll go see, 1800. We moved here from Philadelphia in the late 1797. In the late 1790s, Capitol was built in 1800, and originally, like I said earlier, the Supreme Court and other offices of the government were here in what we call the dome, which is the center of the Capitol. And then after that, we built the U.S. House, the original U.S. House chamber, which we'll go see. 1857, we built where we are right now, the current hall of the United States House of Representatives and the Senate on the other side. So the Capitol's kind of been expanding along the way. What we've done in the Capitol is we set up what's called the Statuary collection, where each state gets to send its leading citizens from its history to the Capitol to be recognized and honored in the Capitol. And so these statues are around the Capitol, but right away when we come into the Capitol, we see Hawaii's first one. And we have Father Damien, you know Father Damien, now Saint Damien, because he was made a saint. And so someday we've got to change that from Father Damien to Saint Damien, but he is, of course, ministered to Hansen's disease patients at Kalaupapa. And he's a very unusual statue. There aren't a whole bunch of statues like him in the Capitol. Very modernistic, even though he was actually sculpted somewhere around 50, 60 years ago. There's a duplicate of this statue right outside the Hawaii State Capitol. And so this is very beautiful, and this is kind of the original place where we put all the statues from the various states. This is where it all started. So Kamehameha was originally here. He was our first statue after statehood. And he was over in the corner there behind those columns. And so he's kind of set back. And you'll see him shortly. He's just a huge statue. And one day when I was first here, we had a very unfortunate incident in which some staff tour guides were giving a tour. They were from some other state. And we, the Hawaii Congressional Delegation, overheard them disparaging Kamehameha and saying, well, they put him in the back because he doesn't have any clothes on, and it was really not very flattering. And so we said, why isn't he up in the front? Turns out the reason he was not in the front was because he's the heaviest statue, and they had him put him on top of a column down below. But when we constructed the new visitor center, which we will see, he got a place of honor down there. So actually our statues have a very good placement. You look around on the floor here and you will see plaques. John Quincy Adams, who is one of the few members of the U.S. House who was president. And these plaques reflect presidents who also served in the U.S. House of Representatives. There's about 6 of them here. Abraham Lincoln is over there because he started in the U.S. House. Now this is a very interesting, so this was his desk. And you being a very smart person, especially in mathematics, understand a parabola, right?
Goodness, yes.
Parabola has what? 2 focal points, right? And this room is shaped somewhat like a parabola, and so it has 2 focal points. And so because it has 2 focal points, the sound will bounce off of that wall over there into the same place on both sides. And so this is also called Whispering Hall. The reason it's called Whispering Hall is because legend went John Quincy Adams, who was the Speaker of the House, would sit over here and he'd conspire because that was across the aisle, and he always knew what was going on. And everybody thought, how does he always know what's going on? And that's because, reportedly, he could hear when his people were conspiring on the other side. Andrew Johnson.
Republicans on one side and Democrats on the other?
They weren't called Republicans and Democrats at the time.
Okay.
It was kind of the predecessors of the parties then. So you had the Whigs and the The Whigs, and they were called Democrats then, I think, but they weren't Democrats. They were not the modern day Democrats. So we got James Buchanan. Where did Mr. Lincoln go?
Lincoln is up there.
Oh. Abraham Lincoln? He was only here for one term.
Yeah, 2 years.
And so he didn't, they sat people by seniority. So he's kind of he's called a backbencher, and that's why they call it a backbencher. He's way back in the back of the bench. They would have been circled like that, right? So the people with seniority were up there in the front. The dome?
What does that mean? Do you know? Is that Latin?
Is that what?
Latin.
Oh, Latin. E pluribus unum. You know what that is? That's our national motto.
Something one.
Out of many one.
Out of many one.
It's on the back of your money. E pluribus unum. And this is called up here the apotheosis of George Washington, that painting up there. And apotheosis means rising into heaven, right? So George Washington, the father of our country, a revered figure, and like a lot of people like him, people want to somehow make him into a god and treat him as a god.
Okay.
And George Washington didn't want any of that. He didn't want to be a god. He didn't want to be in the Capitol because downstairs from where we are right now, there was a plan to put his casket there. And he said, no, I don't belong to, I'm just a person, I'm not a god. And so he went home to Mount Vernon. And that's where he's buried. But anyway, they in 1800 made him a god anyway. So they treated him like a god up there, like he's rising up to heaven.
Yeah.
Seems a little out of touch with the times, but our times, but that's our history. And so this was the dome, 1800, so 223 years old now. It wasn't the big dome like it has right now. It was a lower dome, and then they put the big dome over the top of it later on. But this is pretty much how it was in 1800.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, I'm going to go over here. So, one advantage of being a member of Congress is I can go where I want.
I know, they all seem to know you.
They do that by this. This pin says I'm a member of Congress, and so they're all watching it. Come up here. Come on. Come on. I can come up here because I'm a member. Just come up. Just you guys. Okay. This is Michelle, by the way. I'm giving her a tour. I've known her all my life, or her life rather, and so she's visiting, or she's actually going to school here. This is the original Senate chamber of the Senate. So I'm sure Alan told you this, but we started in the Capitol, and then at the time, we just had the Senate close to the dome and the House on the other side. Have you been there yet? Did you go there?
Yes.
Okay. That's what we call the Statuary Hall, the Whispering Hall, and all that kind of stuff. Okay. Maybe you haven't made it there yet. So this was where the Senate was. And so the Senate is a lot smaller than the House. 2 senators per state, and assigned seating. So very kind of old, and this is actually the oldest part of the Capitol here, together with the dome. Then we expanded in both ways from the core. We went to the original Senate, now not the original, but the new Senate and the new House. think they left.
don't use this area. Do you guys use this area?
No, this is just for, this is not the Senate anymore. The Senate is down there.
Very pro-business, very anti-business.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So now we're on the Senate side. So this is the domain of the Senate. And remember the directions I gave you? What direction is that?
What?
What direction is that?
Straight. No, I'm just kidding.
South.
South.
South, north,
North.
west, and east. And so remember that the dome is in the middle.
Okay.
And the dome is neutral territory. And so on the other side is all the way through, all the way down, as far as you can see, is the door of the United States House of Representatives, where we just were. And here is the door of the United States
This
Senate.
is the rectangle.
It's a rectangle. And so right now, I'm on enemy territory, the U.S. Senate.
Okay. So we need to do some recon.
We need to do some recon, yeah. If any senators catch me over here, they're going to say, what are you doing over here? And over on my side, if they come over on my side, I tell them, what are you doing here?
Got it. No, you can just use me. I'll be like, I got lost, and you're the only one who get to come and find me.
This is the original Supreme Court, where the Supreme Court first met.
Before they got their own
This is
building.
before they got their own building. This is the oldest part of the Capitol right here. This is all original. This is from 1800. And, you know, the justices are there. And the lawyers and the gallery. And many, many critical decisions at the beginning of our country's history were made right here. For example, the respective powers of the judiciary as opposed to Congress, the separation of powers, the overall authority and responsibilities of the government. Because, you know, we did the Declaration of Independence, we fought the war, then we had our Constitution. The Constitution was just in writing, and then we had to figure out what it meant. And so there was actually a time in our history where there was a real dispute about whether the Supreme Court was the interpreter of the Constitution or not. Oh. And basically the decision was, no, we're in charge of the Constitution. You guys can make the laws, but we need to take care of making sure you're doing the right thing when you're making the laws and you are complying with the Constitution. And for this country to be a country where the legislature makes the laws, but nobody is really looking over the legislature's shoulder, that's not going to work. So those decisions were made right here, and we're still following them all these years later. Check her out. So here's Kamehameha. So he's the most popular statue. Everybody wants to take their picture right here. I mean, to us, we're just so used to him. But to most of the world,
Yeah, I can see.
he's very different. And they wonder about him. And to imagine, he came into the Capitol in the 60s. So he was even more unusual then, probably.
It's nice that people can learn more about him too.
Yeah,
Like if-
this is a good idea. Oh, come over here. This is nice.
Do people ever lay in?
Have a nice view up to the Capitol right there, which I always kind of like to look at. So that is Victory on the top of the Capitol. Victory went up there in the early 1800s. And that's a replica over there.
So Victory is the equivalent of like the Statue of Liberty type of thing?
Yeah, same idea.
So are we in front of that, underneath of it now?
Of
Or are
what?
we in this building?
That's the Capitol, but we're in front of it. We're
Okay, but
Yeah.
underneath of it, right?
right.
So they can put pretty much as many statues as they wanted.
No, 2 per state.
2 per state.
So if you're going to bring another one, you have to replace somebody, which gets to be a real debate.
Okay. Yeah, that would be very.
Right now, people are, every state is, I mean, nobody's, as far as I know, nobody's reconsidering anything in Hawaii.
I was about to say, are there any new proposals?
No, nobody's, but other states have new proposals. Yeah, they want to kick people out who had controversial pasts or because they don't think that they are sufficiently honoring somebody.
Statue of Liberty. Is that what the Statue of Liberty?
No. Have you never seen the Statue of Liberty?
No.
Really?
Never mind. Let's not comment on that.
I'm not giving you a tour of the Statue of Liberty.
Why not? That would be great. You said you're free this weekend, right?
Yeah. This was an immense project. It took many years and it was very expensive. But I hope it was worth it. Here's the Senate right over here.
House of Representatives, and then don't ask me which direction any of it
Court is over there, behind us.
is. You're learning that.
One of the only statues of a foreign citizen in our entire capital. And that's because he was made an honorary U.S. citizen.
That was for.
There's another one. I forget why he got into the Capitol.
World War II. No? World War II, right?
Churchill, World War II, right. And he also spoke in the U.S. House of Representatives during the war. We have the only member of the the Hawaii delegation to Congress to have her portrait in the U.S. Capitol, Patsy Mink, who is best known as the author of Title IX, which is equality in sports, but not just sports, but education for women. And really quite an amazing person. I met her many times over the years, but I had the unfortunate responsibility when she died. She died, and I was first elected to Congress to replace her on a special election after she died suddenly in 2003. And she had left such a mark on everybody that to this day, 20 years later, if somebody doesn't like what I'm doing, they'll say, "You're no Patsy Mink." So, and I'm actually in her office. The office I'm in right now used to be her office, so her reputation and aura is still all around. But she was just honored on the 50th anniversary of Title IX with her, which is a huge deal to have your portrait hung in the United States Capitol. I mean, there have been roughly 10,000 members of Congress in our history roughly 5,000 members of, 10,000 members of the U.S. House, about 5,000 U.S. senators in the entirety of our history, and only a couple hundred have any kind of representation in the Capitol itself. So she was a real pioneer, born in Maui, and just she was a pioneer all her life. So she deserves that. First African American. We're back to where we started. We've made the loop. We'll go back a different way. So this is my usual route between my office and the Capitol. So I'm sitting in my office. If it's a nice day, I'll do it outside. But if it's not a nice day, I'll go underground, because everything is connected underground through tunnels. And I know that it takes me 7 minutes to get from my office to the floor of the House. And so whenever a vote gets called, the first vote will be a 15-minute vote. And so that means that I can...
Oh, there's like a train.
Is the train still going?
Yes, they just...
Oh, they just pulled out. Thank you. I better ring them. Do the buzzer. Oh no, do you know about the buzzer? So I know that... Oh, I get that one.
He needs his steps. Heart health.
No, because this is the fun part right here. Like
Where you call your
I
own
do
train,
actually
yes.
walk. I do actually
You can
walk.
walk. I have no
No,
problem.
no.
What is all of those pictures? We're gonna miss all of them.
No, we'll see them on the way. You have to take the choo-choo ride.
The choo-choo ride?
Yeah, this is what everybody comes here for.
Okay. Legendary.
Right here we have President Biden is in Canada today, talking with Prime Minister Trudeau. He just spoke to the Canadian Parliament. We have TV cameras all over telling us what's happening in the world.
Yeah, I was about to say, so does that channel just follow our president around?
That's just basic C-SPAN, which is kind of a channel that more objectively represents what's happening in government. And it has a lot of channels. So earlier in the day, you would have seen the House of Representatives. Come over here, Dick. Oh, okay. Come over here. Hang on. Oh yeah, okay. I guess we should have done it the other way. So, this is our train, and here's all the states over here. This gets us from the Capitol to the House Office building. And I brought my granddaughter up here, who's 4 years old. I brought her up here for the opening of the Congress this time around, because I can take her to the floor for the opening of Congress. And I asked her afterwards, what do you remember? And she said, I remember the train. That's the only thing she remembered.
The choo-choo ride.
She didn't remember too much
Nothing
about
else.
being on the floor of the House with me and all that pageantry. She said she remembered the train. So maybe this is the only thing you're going to remember is...
They just like the monorail and Pearl Ridge.
Yeah, okay, same idea.
Walk back and forth.
Yeah.
So you'll go and vote, and then you'll go back to your office, discuss, and then go and vote again.
Yeah, because I won't wait over there for a vote. I got plenty to do over here. Because most of my work is here, right? My voting is there.
And it takes like 5 seconds. besides the waiting in line part?
Well, usually there's not just one vote. Usually it's more than one vote. So you like have, the first vote is 15 minutes and it usually sloughs over to 20, 25, but then after that it's every 5 minutes is a vote. So you usually, when I go over to the floor, I usually have anywhere from half an hour to a couple of hours to hang over there and talk to my colleagues, and then people that are visiting come over there to meet me there. And we're back to my little home away from home. How long was that? Hour and a half?
Hour.
So do you have enough time? Do you want to switch out your card?
I did while we were in the elevator. We're good.
Okay. Well, let's go in here and hang. We'll do our wrap up.
Can we go over the answers first? Goodness. Okay.
You're such a good sport. Okay, so here we are. We have completed a tour of the Capitol by yours truly. First of all, I want to know, what did you think of my tour guide skills?
They're a little rusty.
Oh, really?
I'm glad we got to brush you off a little bit.
I don't think I missed a beat. Can you identify one time when I didn't know the answer to something?
Well, let's just go over the questions that you just didn't answer.
Oh, really? Go ahead. Ask me a question.
Another question. Okay, what are the arrows for on the house floor? Like on the walls, you have the circles, and then there are arrows in there. Are those significant? That's the eagle. The eagle in our seal is holding arrows, right? Yeah.
You know that, or let's check it out, man.
Okay, let's check it out. Goodness, it's busting out some money. Yeah, he is holding arrows.
Okay, there you go. That's our seal.
Why that's there.
Yeah, it's a great seal of the United States. And we won't get into some of the other symbolism, like this pyramid here with the light on the top.
Well, that wasn't there either.
No, that wasn't there because, and I don't know whether it is in the Capitol, but that is reported to be the sign of the Masonic Order, the Masons, but nobody's ever proved that. Oh, you guys are finished? Come on in. Come on in.
They can help me with your questions.
Come in. Come in. How's it going? Come on in.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Hello, Dad.
Hi. Come on in. Come on in. Come in. Sit down.
Are you seeing it 3 times in 1 day, sir?
3 times in 1 day.
Yeah.
So I was telling you briefly in there that I've known Michelle almost all of her life. Well, actually all of your life, because her grandfather and I were best friends from high school. So I kind of met her growing up. And so what happened was she's studying here in Washington, D.C., Georgetown Masters.
Oh, nice.
And I hadn't seen her yet over here. So I wanted to see her, but then at the same time, come in. Sit down if you you want to sit down? Oh, wow, we got a big group. Your entire group here?
No, it's only 10 hours. Is this I guess here for... We came for the congressional briefing for Georgetown University.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I do, back home, I do a Olelo, Olelo, community broadcasting. And I do a show every month. And I try to pick a different subject to talk about every month. Like, let's say I'm doing events back at home, like I'll do a tape about what I was doing. Sometimes I'll do a show here where I'll just kind of like try to describe an issue for an hour. And so my staff and I were thinking about our next show, and so they said, well, why don't you give a tour of the Capitol? And I said, oh, I've got a good victim that's coming in that I can give a good tour of the Capitol, because she's never been to the Capitol before. So I was just and she's, because she was around me and her grandfather, has a lot of, poise. She's not going to get thrown off too much, but so.
I don't know about that. We'll see how this turns out.
So I'm just about to quiz her on what she learned.
Yes,
in
you
the
guys can
Capitol.
help me. We'll be your lifeline. He keeps asking about directions and like where stuff is.
Okay, so when was the U.S. Capitol built?
Which one?
The original. Oh, wow, look at that. Are we going to really get into this?
Is that the one that's in Philadelphia?
18, no, just stop there. 1800, 1800, yeah, okay, cool. Let's see, what is the orientation of the U.S. Capitol? Compass-wise?
North to south?
Yeah, north, south, east, west. It's not a trick question. Just go with it, man. But if you're in the Capitol and you're facing down the mall and you see the Washington Monument and the Lincoln Memorial, what direction are you looking?
Home.
Anybody?
West.
West.
Thank you, sir.
You're looking straight west to Hawaii.
Yes, home Just keep going in that direction. We'll eventually get there.
Let's see. How long has the current U.S. House of Representatives been there?
118.
Huh?
118. No. The current.
Current U.S. House. Because you went through the old house, right?
Right.
You remember that? So late 1850s, actually, 1857. Originally, as you listened, the original Capitol had everybody in there in the Supreme Court, Library of Congress, and then we expanded it, and there it is today. And did you guys get down to see Kamehameha? Oh, you did. And did you see?
From upstairs.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, because I get to bust down there if I want. Sometimes what I do is, I don't do it that often, but like sometimes if I'm here late at night, I'll go to the Capitol at night, because it can go anytime, right? Or I can go anytime at least. And so I'll go there at 10 or 11 at night, wander around by myself in the Capitol. Can you imagine what that feels like? To be in the middle of the Capitol with like today there were a lot of people. I was kind of surprised at that. I guess what happened was, because we were meeting this morning, the U.S. House was meeting, and I guess what happened was we all cleared out to go home, other than me, because it's too far. And we had a lot of, at that point the tours just took over, so that was cool. It was good to see a lot of people there. Any questions about the tour or about Congress? No?
We learned a lot past couple days.
Oh, yeah?
They're from
Oh, Guam. Half a day.
The day.
Yeah, good to see you. What'd you learn?
We saw James of what we learned, how it functions.
Oh, how does it function?
Yeah, it's upside down. Apparently, on its edge, upside down. That's how it functions.
Well, it has a way that it
it's a
functions
beast.
on paper, and a way that it actually functions. It's not a bad thing, right? I mean, it's still about everybody getting together and collectively trying to figure out what to do. It's a little messy, but
And personal.
it is personal,
Yes.
especially for a small state.
Right.
See, that's what's really, really important about being from Hawaii, or about being from Guam, or CNMI, or Samoa, or Puerto Rico. All of us island countries or jurisdictions, we all hang together because we're not part of the continental United States. We're a long way away. We don't have that many representatives. And so for the Hawaii delegation, we only have 2 senators, 2 representatives out of 541 members of Congress, right? To include the delegates from the territories. And so if the 4 of us from Hawaii are not working collectively and together, we're just going to get lost. And then to make it worse, if you represent, Guam, one person, right?
Yeah.
And And so what we do is we band together with the non-continental jurisdictions. So Alaska is one of our partners too, because we all have a common enemy, the continental United States.
The mainland.
The mainland. And so, I talked to Mr. Moylan today. We talked about things that we wanted to achieve.
We saw him
Saw him, yeah. So it's a really good relationship. But
That's good. I'm glad.
okay, anything else?
What's the most challenging part of your position and how do you tackle it?
I suppose I would say the most challenging part of my position is the division in the country today and the polarization and the trying to get people to actually work constructively together, because people are just angry, and that's not helped by a lot of different factors in our society today. It tends to pull people apart rather than bring people together. It tends to amplify differences rather than common ground, and it's a perpetual battle between one party and the other as to who's going to be in the majority and who's going to govern the country, and so that's disappointing. There's a part to all of that in our system. I mean, we have differences in philosophy, and the parties represent differences, and we should have those debates. And we should have decisions, and that's what voting is all about, right? Because at the end of the day, it's my vote, right? And how many people voted for this or that, and all of that's good. But you don't have to go there on every single issue, and you don't have to do it in a way that is destructive to the system. And so that's the most challenging part of my job is cutting through all of that and just getting things done. Yeah. Okay, well, thanks again very much for joining us. I'm glad you got a tour. I guess.
I have a few of those too.
Good luck. And great work.
We're still gonna grill her, so you guys can go, but. Okay, good to see you again. All right, aloha. Have a good trip back again. Okay, thank you. Aloha.
Aloha.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you again. Aloha. Thank you. Aloha.
Thank you, sir.
Okay,
Appreciate your time.
no problem. Okay, back to the quiz.
Okay, what was that? Pretest?
Okay, so what did you honestly think of your tour? I mean, forget about the tour guide for a second. Just what did you think of the Capitol? How did it match up against your expectations? What did you observe? Because I go there every day. I don't see things with fresh eyes too much anymore.
It was amazing how much art, like you were saying, to look up and to see the paintings and the history and how everything flowed in a chronological order. It was like cohesive in the sense where it's like, I don't know, you start off with when pilgrims came and ended with the Wright brothers in one section, and then in another section you just had like inspirational quotes of famous people, and you also were seeing just like tidbits of art from each state and statues that were honoring people, and how it's all a part of our country's history collectively in one place. And it was very, I don't know, it was very empowering, and it kind of made me very proud to be not only a part of Hawaii, because we had, the biggest statue out of all the statues there with King Kamehameha, but also like a U.S. citizen, because just like that's our history there, and that's who we are, and so it was amazing to get to see that in person.
Yeah. My staff is trying to get me to work again, but I don't want to work right now. I just want to listen to you.
Of course.
That was so beautifully said. Well, I mean, that's the point of it, right? To me, when people visit our Capitol, I want them to take a couple of things away. I mean, first of all, it's a living, breathing institution, and that's their government, right, working. And it's pretty unusual in the world that citizens can actually go to their government and actually be where their government is working. Many places in the world, citizens are removed from their government, and yet here people actually can come to their government. So the fact that that is where we voted this morning on issues that affect every American, I think it's good that people experience the place that it happens, but also the history of the country, because we're coming up on just a few short years. It's 250 years. And for 223 of those years, we've been right here in Washington, in that capital, through all those generations, all of those difficulties in our country's history, the Civil War, the First World War, the Second World War, the Great Recession, the Depression, you know, so many obstacles, and the Capitol has been there, and we've been trying to deal with all of that there for a long time. And so it inspires me to go to the Capitol every day. I don't really get used to it. I mean, maybe I don't notice some things sometimes, but I always get inspired by going to the Capitol. So that's the idea, is for people from Hawaii to come here and, like I said at the very beginning, to have that chance to experience that and go home and hopefully feel a little bit better about their country and their democracy.
Yeah, it's also pretty cool because there's, in my brain at least, this could be completely wrong, but there's kind of like a correlation between Hawaii and us as like a country, because I feel like we're one of the youngest countries in the world, and we're also one of the youngest states in our country. And so that was also kind of something that I took away and got to see and made a connection, I guess. And I don't know, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, well, we have an equal vote to the rest of the country, right?
Yeah.
I have the same vote as any other member of the U.S. House. And I represent a very small place, a very long way away, and a completely, you know, in many ways different culture. But I have a voice here, and so do everybody I represent through me. And I think that's pretty cool, actually. So.
Amazing.
Okay, well, time to wrap this segment of Congressman Ed Case reports to Michelle Biete from Wahiawa. Thank you so much for allowing me to give you a tour of the United States Capitol and hopefully to show you, our viewers, what is available to you in my office. We are happy to help you with your trip to Washington, D.C. When you come, please come and visit my office. If I'm here, I will meet with you personally and my staff, and when I can, I will offer you a tour of the U.S. Capitol so you can experience your government in action and appreciate the same things that Michelle has said so well. So please contact us, case.house.gov. There's a section in my website about visiting Washington. So until we see each other again, mahalo, ahui ho.